Aquarius. Some things in life don't change in ways you can immediately see. Not a sharp turn, not a moment that flips everything upside down. Just a very subtle feeling, like walking into a familiar room and somehow realizing it doesn't feel the same anymore. Things that once occupied your mind no longer take up as much space. What once felt so important now feels a little more distant. And you start to wonder, is this just a passing phase or the beginning of something shifting deeper within you? There isn't a clear answer right now, but that feeling, it's still there, quiet, steady, and real. And maybe it's from these unspoken, hard-to-name changes that a new path is slowly taking shape. In a way you might not have noticed before, there are moments in life when everything seems to keep moving as usual. The days pass. Work continues. Familiar conversations repeat themselves. But somewhere inside, you begin to feel something you can't quite name. It's not loss. It's not exactly a beginning either. Just a slight shift. Like a gear in an old machine no longer turning in the same rhythm as before. And what's strange is, no one else can see it but you. You still smile. You still reply to messages. You still do what needs to be done. But deep inside, a part of you has quietly stepped back, watching and wondering. Why do the things that once excited you no longer feel the same? Why do conversations that used to flow so easily now feel a little distant? And why, even when nothing is technically wrong, do you still feel like you don't fully belong here anymore? Aquarius. Maybe this isn't a sign that you're losing something. Maybe it's a sign that you're beginning to see things through different eyes. Not loud, not rushed, just a shift in the way you experience the world. You start looking at your relationships again, not to judge them as right or wrong, but to understand whether they still align with who you are now. You revisit your goals, not to give up on them, but to ask, does this still mean something to me? And sometimes the answer doesn't come right away. Just a pause that lingers a little longer than usual, a moment of hesitation, a gentle slowing down. But within those quiet spaces, something subtle begins to reveal itself. You are no longer the person you used to be, and that realization isn't always comfortable, because when you change, what once fit you perfectly can start to feel too tight or too loose. Conversations no longer reach as deep, plans no longer spark the same motivation. Expectations, whether from others or from yourself, begin to feel unfamiliar. But maybe this doesn't mean something is wrong. Maybe it simply means you are slowly stepping out of an older version of yourself, not through a dramatic leap, not through a sudden decision, but through very small shifts, very slow ones, and very real. And if you find yourself in this space where things aren't fully clear yet, but you know you're no longer who you used to be, then maybe this isn't an empty space at all. Maybe it's a space being created, so you can begin listening to yourself again in a deeper way. There was a time when you believed that if you were just a little more patient, tried a little harder, stayed a little longer, then everything would eventually work out. You carried that belief into your relationships, into your work, even into the dreams you held on to for far too long. Not because you were weak, but because you cared. You didn't let go easily of things that once meant something to you. And maybe that's exactly why you stayed longer than you needed to. You stayed in conversations that no longer reached you. You stayed in expectations you had been quietly carrying for too long. You stayed because a part of you still hoped things might go back to how they used to be. But then, in a very natural way, something began to shift. You started to feel tired, not the kind of exhaustion you can see on the outside, but something deeper, like you were slowly running out of reasons to keep holding everything together. And maybe that's when something inside you began to change. You stopped trying to understand everything right away. You stopped asking questions you already knew wouldn't have clear answers. You began to accept that some things don't need explaining, and some people aren't meant to stay in your life forever. This didn't come from coldness, and it didn't mean you stopped caring. It simply meant you were learning how to protect your own peace more gently, with less force. And strangely enough, when you loosen your grip just a little, life around you begins to soften too. The pressures that once weighed heavily don't feel quite as overwhelming anymore. The thoughts that used to keep you up at night begin to pass more quickly. You don't feel the need to prove that you're right. You don't feel the need to explain who you are. You don't feel the need to be understood by people who were never really trying to understand you. Instead, you begin to choose quiet, not the kind that disconnects you from the world, but a quiet within where you are no longer pulled by what no longer fits. And then, a space begins to open. The familiar things you once leaned on are no longer there. The old emotions you used to revisit don't return in the same way. It's just a space, one you've never really stood in before. In the past, you might have rushed to fill it with a new relationship, a new goal, something, anything, to avoid feeling empty. But this time, you don't. You stay in that space a little longer, not to escape it, but to understand it. And slowly, you begin to realize this space isn't something to fear. It's not a sign that you're losing something. Then it might be a sign that you're creating room for something new, something that fits better. No need to rush, no need to know what's coming next. Just stay calm enough to sit with yourself a little longer. And you might begin to see that letting go was never really a loss, but a quiet way of finding your way back to yourself. And then, when you stop rushing to fill that empty space, something very different begins to happen. Not a clear answer, not a strong signal that suddenly explains everything, just life around you starts to slow down. The days no longer feel so emotionally crowded. The constant highs and lows begin to settle. That feeling of having to chase something just to catch up starts to fade, and within that slowing, a quiet space appears. Most people feel uncomfortable in this kind of silence, because in stillness, deeper thoughts begin to rise. Questions you once avoided start becoming clearer. But for you, Aquarius, this time, it doesn't feel as heavy. You're no longer trying to fill every empty moment with noise, no longer keeping yourself busy just to avoid facing yourself. Instead, you begin to sit a little longer in that quiet, not to force an answer, but to listen. To the small things, to the feelings you once overlooked, to the subtle signals that only reveal themselves when you truly slow down. And there's something interesting about that. The things that truly matter in life rarely arrive with loud noise. They don't show up in rushed moments. They don't come when you're trying to control everything according to a fixed plan. They come when you begin to loosen your grip, when you stop forcing things to happen on your timeline. You may not notice it right away, but the way you see things is already changing. You start paying attention to what you once overlooked. A simple conversation that feels genuine, a small idea that lingers longer than expected, a quiet sense of, this feels right, that logic can't quite explain. And then you realize, slowing down isn't falling behind. It's a way of making sure you don't miss what truly belongs to you. What's coming may not be a big breakthrough. It may not be something that changes everything overnight, but it could be a small door, opening at the exact moment you're ready to walk through. A more aligned opportunity, not loud, but clear enough for you to recognize. A more fitting direction. No need to prove anything to anyone, yet steady enough to keep you moving forward. Or simply a genuine connection where you don't have to try to become someone else, where being yourself is already enough. And maybe what matters most isn't really about what is coming. It's about who you are becoming, someone who can recognize it and receive it. No need to rush, no need to have everything figured out. Just stay in this new rhythm, the rhythm of listening, of being present, of trusting the small things. And maybe, in a very natural way, what truly fits you will find its way to you. And as you begin to settle into that slower rhythm, as you grow more comfortable not rushing to search anymore, something else quietly begins to change. The way you understand value. There was a time when you might have believed that the good things in life came from something outside of you, an unexpected opportunity, a lucky moment, or something you had to achieve. But through everything you've experienced, a different awareness starts to take shape, that maybe What truly fits you doesn't arrive by chance the way you once thought. It shows up when something within you is ready to receive it, not in a perfect way, not when you're good enough or strong enough, but when you begin to see more clearly what actually matters to you and what no longer does. You are no longer who you used to be. You're no longer easily pulled toward things that only bring temporary feelings. You're no longer too concerned with keeping up with a pace of life that never truly felt like yours. And in that subtle shift, what comes toward you begins to change as well. Not something big right away, not something that draws attention from everyone around you, but something that feels right. It's in a quiet, unmistakable way. It might be a small financial opportunity, not particularly noticeable, but arriving at the exact moment you need it. And you realize you can receive it with more calm than before. It might be an offer that seems completely ordinary, nothing special on the surface, yet it leads you toward a new direction, one you hadn't even considered before. Or maybe nothing changes dramatically on the outside, but within you, a sense of fullness begins to grow, not the kind that comes from having everything, but a quiet feeling that you're no longer missing something just to be yourself. You don't feel the need to rush and prove your worth. You don't feel the need to chase standards you once believed were necessary. You simply find yourself in the right place for you, within your own life. And maybe that's when you begin to realize value isn't about how much you have or what you achieve. It's about whether what comes into your life truly aligns with the person you are becoming, a very gentle alignment, but enough to let you move forward with a sense of ease. And when you look back, you might not call it luck. You might see it instead as a series of quiet inner shifts, gradually guiding you toward what fits you better. No need for noise, no need to prove anything. Just keep that clarity, keep that connection with yourself, and what belongs to you may not require so much searching anymore. And then, in a very ordinary moment, not when you're achieving something big, not when everything finally feels perfect, you pause and you realize something. It's not about what you've gained, it's about how you've changed. You don't react the way you used to. You don't rush to explain yourself anymore. You don't feel the need to hold on to everything just because it once felt familiar. Things that used to take up so much space in your mind. Now you simply notice them, understand, and let them pass. Not because you've become indifferent, but because you're beginning to see what's truly worth holding on to within yourself. You're calmer now. Not because life has become easier, but because you no longer let everything pull you away from your own center. You're clearer. Not because you have all the answers, but because you know what no longer fits into your life. And there's something very subtle. You're no longer easily drawn into things that don't belong to you. The words, the expectations, the invisible pressures, they're still there. But they don't reach you the same way anymore. You see them, but you don't feel the need to carry them with you. And within that shift, something begins to move again. Not from the outside, but from the way you show up in your own life. Because when you stop trying to become someone else, you begin to see yourself more clearly. And when you're clear, what comes toward you becomes clearer too. No need to search so hard. No need to rush the pace of your life. Just keep walking the way you are now, a little slower, a little more aware, a little more honest with yourself. And maybe you'll begin to realize something. You were never standing still. You've come a long way, just in a way that looks very different from what you once imagined. No need to rush, no need to force anything, because this journey was never a race with anyone else. It has always been a quiet return, step by step, moment by moment, back to who you truly are. And then, after all those subtle shifts, something begins to slowly reveal itself. Not in the way you once imagined, not as a moment that suddenly changes everything, but as a feeling that's strangely familiar, only this time, clearer. Like stepping onto a new path, yet somehow feeling you've known it all along. What's coming toward you, Aquarius, may not arrive with noise. It may not be a turning point that draws everyone's attention, but it carries something very distinct. It fits. It fits who you are now. It fits what you've been through. It fits the way you're beginning to see life, in this moment. And when it appears, you may not react strongly. No overwhelming surprise, no intense emotion. Just a quiet realization. I see now. Not in the sense that you suddenly have all the answers, but in the sense that you're no longer lost. It's not a shock that forces immediate change. It's a gentle confirmation that the path you're on is slowly becoming clearer. And maybe this is the moment you've been waiting for. Not because it brings everything you once hoped for, but because it allows you to see things from a different place, a calmer place, a wider perspective, less influenced by everything outside of you. You no longer need everything to happen right away. You no longer feel the need to control every next step. You simply keep walking with the clarity you now carry, with the stillness you've learned, with a quiet trust that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're still here, still listening to these final words, maybe you didn't arrive here by accident. Maybe a part of you has already sensed that something is truly shifting. No need to understand it all right now. No need to name it. Just allow yourself to slow down a little more. Listen a little deeper. Because the most meaningful changes often begin within, long before you can see them on the outside. And if there's one thing you can carry with you after this, maybe it's this. You're not being left behind. You're being guided, little by little, toward another version of yourself. One that may not be more perfect, but is more true. And maybe that's what you were really searching for all along.